Welcome to the Frequency of Yes, the podcast for feminine leaders creating wild success, deep empowerment, and divine wealth on their terms. I'm Kirstin Carey, and this episode is all about divine balance, how masculine and feminine energies must work together in business for true success. So, why did I choose this topic as one of the very first ones to cover in this podcast series? Well, it's because right now there's a dramatic shift happening in business, and there's a dismantling of the harsh masculine energy and copycat business strategy. The push and pull and formulaic approach to marketing and sales, it's falling apart. And many of the companies who built their businesses on that grind and one size fits all group model, they're collapsing. Or they're running in the red right now, hoping they can outlast what they believe is a temporary blip in the market. On the other side, some of the business owners who actually see this shift taking place, they are taking action to correct the imbalance in the marketplace, but they're in danger right now of overcorrecting and causing their companies to fall apart by going too far into a feminine, soft attraction energy approach. The businesses that are approaching this shift with balance between the masculine and feminine are experiencing success in attracting their ideal clients, having positive cash flow, and feeling connected to their mission. So today, I want to cover how to find the balance of the masculine and feminine so that you can recognize the imbalance in your business and start taking steps to make corrections that work for you. Let's drop in. Years ago, I woke up in a complete panic. I had no idea where I was. It was dark. The bed felt weird. The sound of the air in the room wasn't familiar, and nothing smelled right. I was frozen and I couldn't breathe. And it took me about a full minute to even process what was going on. Was I home? Was I in a hotel? What city was I in? I had been traveling, speaking, and fulfilling contracts all over the US. And at the time, I thought that's what success looked like, because on paper, I was killing it. My bank account was full. Audiences were jumping up onto their feet after my talks. And I had a booked calendar of speaking dates and consulting gigs laid out for an entire year. And among my colleagues, it was a badge of honor to be on the road, racking up flyer miles and hotel points, and hitting platinum status with car rental companies, running from one conference to the next. And at the time, I was in the middle of a 2-week period where I never really slept an entire night because I was either arriving late to the hotel coming from one event, or I was getting up at 3:15 in the morning after a big speaking gig the night before to make it to the airport to get to the next event, to get on another stage or into another conference room and do it all over again. And one night, after presenting to a standing room only session of sales professionals at the National Conference of Catering Executives, I woke up in that hotel room and I was forced to finally pay attention. And I then ended up on a journey to unravel the myriad of symptoms that had been building up and I had been ignoring or suppressing with medications and caffeine and more work. And my body was letting me know that the constant masculine grind with no counterbalance of rest and reflection just couldn't continue. So it shut me down. And just because I was hitting all the targets on paper, my body and my life were absolutely suffering. I was finally diagnosed with celiac disease and Hashimoto's thyroid disease. And then I went on to a journey to rewire my business and ultimately my life. And though I wouldn't have explained it like this at the time, but what I came to learn was that what I was really doing was rebalancing masculine strategy with feminine flow to get on a path of divine balance with my business and my life. Now, my past self would be laughing right now if she heard my current self say that. She would tell me that I was too woo, right? And I wasn't logical enough in how I was doing this. But what I found out and I discovered, the science behind the woo and the flow behind the logic was necessary to create successful businesses holistically. What I ended up doing is I ended up shutting down my consulting company. I went back to school to become a natural health practitioner. I got a divorce. I moved to the other side of the country. I reversed my autoimmune conditions organically. And then I built a 7-figure company, including restaurants, wellness centers, and an online program helping others find their health again, too. Now, 15 years later, I'm helping high achievers build businesses that are sustainable, profitable, and rooted in their unique brilliance. So before I go any further, let's talk a little bit more about what I mean when I say masculine drive or feminine energy. So when I mean masculine drive, I'm talking more about things that are the structure, the strategy, the action, the push, the doing. This will show up in your business as things like balance sheets, tax planning, launch strategies, and processes. The feminine energy is more flow, it's intuition, it's receptivity, it's the creation energy. This is cash flow. It's client nurturing. It's your internal wisdom that's guiding your offers and your pricing and your sales conversations. And both are 100% essential. One is not better than the other. But too much masculine is going to lead to rigidity. It's going to lead to burnout and the inability to pivot at the right time. And that too much feminine leads to drifting and inconsistencies and overgiving and undercharging and atrophy. And what we're seeing in business right now is that companies that are in that high 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure companies who built off of that bro funnel formulaic systems, they're seeing a dramatic decrease in the number of people who are showing up for the events. There's fewer people watching replays and VSLs. There's lower numbers of prospects converting from launches or boot camps or summits. And there's far lower ROI from social media posts. And this is showing that quick scale business, because of that hard grind, isn't sustainable. And that there's always a rebalance or a cycle that's happening. And if we push too far one way, the pendulum will swing back at some point and try to correct the situation. So rather than taking a step back to intentionally recalibrate, what these companies are doing is the only thing they actually know how to do, which is to push harder. They're doubling down on strategies that may have worked to help them build, and it worked for a period of time, but it isn't working now. Things like spending more money on ads, cranking out larger amounts of promotional emails, grinding out more social media posts, pushing harder on sales calls, and trying to create more urgency to get prospects to buy now. So what this is doing is it's causing less trust from prospects because of false promises and programs that are under-delivering, frankly. So business owners and audiences are burning out as the balance of energy is thrown even further out of balance. And there's a loss of the balanced feminine energy flow and the creativity and the attraction principles, and prospects are turning away. They are shutting down to this top-heavy masculine marketing and business, and they're looking for something different. So let me give you some ideas of how you can know if you're out of balance or if your business is out of alignment. If you're feeling exhausted, even when you don't have a lot going on, or your schedule is full of clients and sales calls, but your cash flow doesn't reflect that, or resentment you're feeling, a lot of resentment towards clients or even the work itself. Like you see your calendar in the morning and you're like, ugh, and you're feeling like you're giving more than you're receiving. If you're constantly undercharging or feeling stretched financially, if you feel like you're doing a lot of planning, but you feel like you just can't get yourself there to implement, or you're leaning too heavily on AI right now and you're losing that human component to your business. If you see clients pushing back, wanting refunds or not completing their programs, or if there's an increase in sales objections, things like, I don't have the money, it's too expensive, I can't get buy-in from my spouse, or I have to think about it. If you're feeling frustrated, exhausted, depressed, or no longer excited about what it is that you're doing. If your posts or your content that you're putting out there are following your perfect structure, you have all the right things in there, all the right calls to action, but you're getting very little engagement. Or maybe launches that are feeling forced at this point, or they're overly scripted, or they're just falling flat. If you have a client onboard process that you put into this behind the scenes system, and now it feels rigid and automated without the personal touch that it maybe once had, and clients are leaving because they feel unseen, or like you're trying to fit them in to look like everyone else into some group model that isn't set for individuals. Or you're overbooking yourself with back-to-back meetings, leaving no space for creative thinking or spontaneity or client engagement. Now, if you're feeling any of this, I can tell you you're not alone, And I'm hearing this from prospects and colleagues and many other people in the coaching, speaking, and services industries. And they're being told by their coaches or their colleagues just to push harder, or that it's just the economy and it's going to bounce back. And while the idea that everything is cyclical and everything is temporary is 100% true, you still have to pay the bills and live life. One of my colleagues earlier this week was doing a pep talk for her team because they're kind of imploding and they're making some major shifts and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And she was telling the team that businesses go through periods of contractions all the time, which is 100% true. But then she went on to use this example. She told them that Amazon went through 9 full years of carrying a loss before they were profitable, which sounds like an inspirational story, right? Because they turned out to be Amazon. But for me, in that moment, that was more off-putting than inspiring because I don't know about you, but I don't have investors who are willing to take a loss for 9 years and be okay with that. My business can't lose money for 9 years and be okay. I still have to pay myself and the bills and my team. And so that approach isn't going to work for me. And the reason it won't work for most businesses is because we're not Amazon. We never planned to be Amazon, and we never will be Amazon. Most of us are on these shorter flow cycles where Amazon might be on a 20-year flow cycle, which means it can be in a growth state that allows them to be in the red for 9 years, but then it has to recalibrate and hold steady in the black for another 9 or 10 years before its next up leveling. But most small business owners need a quicker cycle and will not last a decade at a loss. There's a concept, there's a universal principle called the law of gender. And this exists throughout all of nature. It states essentially that everything has a masculine and feminine quality, and everything has a gestational period. So the feminine is that spark of inspiration, and the masculine is the drive to make it happen. And there's a time for it to be nurtured, and there's a time for it to grow. It's an ebb and flow of movement and steadiness in a balanced way. And sometimes there's more masculine drive, and sometimes there's more feminine nurturing. But you need both of them for success. And in business, this means the masculine energy is more in this knowledge, logic, application, action, practicality, stability, willpower. It's focus and drive and clarity. It's what gets stuff done. It's divine, intentional hustle, not the hustle culture that we see right now. It's divine and purposeful. Where the feminine energy is based more on this internal knowing. It's intuition and creativity and passion and nurturing and authenticity and openness and flow and cycles and dynamic perception. It's divine truth and purpose. And the masculine is the action and the doing, and the feminine is the receiving and the being. It's a give and take, and we need to have both to have success so that it doesn't create burnout or collapse in some way. And the balanced feminine is empowered and it's full of fire and it's not weakness. And the balanced masculine is steady and limitless energy and it's not forced. The goal is to achieve balance between the two to create harmony in business activities, because too much masculine might make your business rigid and draining, or too much feminine might leave you directionless and unclear. I always think of everything as like the balloon and the string. With too much feminine, the balloon will simply just float away with no way of knowing where it will end up. With too much masculine, with only a string, you will be stuck in one place forever. But when you have the right amount of string tethered properly to the right size balloon, you can ride the flow of the wind and be balanced and supported. And for women business owners, this is even more important. It's even more important that you have the proper, purposeful, intentional balance. Because our businesses are us and we are our businesses. There is no split between the two. We give of ourselves to our clients energetically and emotionally, and we hold space for them, and we create programs, developing processes and keeping up with our own development and education. And this impacts our personal lives, how we interact with our families and friends, and how we connect with ourselves and our own purpose. And so our health is at risk if we push too hard in our business, and our businesses are at risk if we over focus on our lives. So let me give you an example of what this looks like in everyday business. So when you're pulling from too much masculine energy, let's look at the sales process, for example. Your sales calls will have more convincing feel to them. They'll be more scripted rather than coming from an empowered confidence to hold space for the prospect to step into your offer and flow with the conversation organically. Now, you may find yourself, if you're too much in the masculine, digging into all of the features and the details of your program offer, trying to logic them into a yes, or even bully them into one, rather than mirroring back to the prospect how your program fits their deepest emotional drivers and goals. And when you're stuck in the shadow feminine, which is still a feminine energy, but it usually comes from a place of fear or conditioning. Like on a sales call, when you see that someone is using an excuse not to make a decision, like they have to check their finances or check in with their spouse, or they have to think about it. But you're too afraid to call them on it and go deeper into their resistance because you're more focused on being liked than helping the client see a hard truth. Or you go hard into the masculine where you attack them on the call, telling them that they're wrong or using shame to move them past their obligations or past their objections. And I see that with a lot of sales practices and strategies that are more rooted in this convincing energy. And when you fall into that, this will cause you to push people away and into a frequency of no. They'll go into shut down and avoid you or your offers or your marketing, and they will ghost you or not enroll in your offer, even when it should have been a great solution for them. So when you integrate both the masculine and the feminine from a balanced place, you're going to create sustainable growth because divine masculine will provide the structure to support you, the financial models, the scheduling, the boundaries you create so you aren't responding to clients at all hours, and the tech behind the scenes in your funnels so that they operate properly and support your business flow. And then when you bring in the divine feminine, this brings life and nurturing into that structure. So you see the flow of cash, the client attraction vibration in your marketing, and the knowing of what the client needs in your programs. And the other important piece of this is that your personal connection within the feminine and the masculine will also come into play here. Your connection with yourself, your own balance, your own self-care strategies, they're critical to this balance as well. And knowing your divine brilliance and what you need energetically, physically, emotionally, that's also critical to your business. Now, I had to learn this the hard way, as do many top performers. We're the kind of people who sometimes need to burn ourselves on the oven, even though somebody else told us it was hot. And we need a 2x4 to get the message. And my 2x4 came as autoimmune conditions. And you need to always remember that you are always in a flow and in a cycle each decade, each year, each day, each moment. And what you need right now is different than what maybe you needed 5 years ago. And what you need to recalibrate may be different today than what you may need next week. And when you're disconnected from your feminine divine, when you don't know when you're in trouble or you tell yourself that you can just push through, at some point, that's going to stop working. And the pendulum's going to come back and it's going to slap you in the head. Now, one of the most powerful ways to understand what you need is to have a coach who knows how to reflect that back to you and guide you through it. Now, I have a process I use with clients, which helps define their unique brilliance through a process I call the zone of genius. It combines a beautiful blend of masculine and feminine. It's dialed in uniquely for each client. I take 30 plus years of business experience, tactical strategy, human design, epigenetics, neuroresilience, functional medicine, and a little sprinkle of quantum brilliance in the middle. And my clients use this map to create from their deepest balance and brilliance to build their companies, generate their strategy, and put together their marketing, develop their pricing and packages, and attract a flow of ideal clients while staying physically, emotionally, and energetically resilient. And it allows them to step away from the formulas and the systems that no longer work for them or maybe never did. Things in their marketing, stepping into the flow of what will actually uniquely work for them, their ideal target audience, and create a strategy just for them in the now. And in a world that's teetering on the edge of AI, where who knows where that's really going to take us, where people are absolutely desperate for balance and humanness and truth, businesses that get this and take action on it will flow into this new paradigm. And the ones that don't are going to be swept under and dismantled. So I want you to check in right now. Where are you perhaps grinding or pushing with a strategy that you know deep down is no longer working? Or where are you perhaps shutting down and caving in on yourself because you're exhausted and you need your spark back? Where are you leaning into the grind because that's what you're used to and that's what you know? Or where are you pulling away and wishing that you had a better way for you to find your true balance? Look, business is not just hustle or flow. It's both the masculine and the feminine energy in divine balance. If this resonated with you, subscribe, share, and stay connected for more. Your full body yes, it's not just a feeling. It's a full frequency. It's a strategy. And if you want to map out your zone of genius and get to the core of how you're designed to create, build, and drive a sustainable business, let's chat.